What's up and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be asking yours truly, Hellfire, what is the worst Borderlands game? Man, I've been seeing a lot of videos talking about different games in the franchise being the worst to ever grace the shelves. I'm going to throw up a couple examples on screen while I continue to speak here, and while none of them are right in saying that so-and-so game is terrible, you see, when you ask somebody what is the worst blank anything, the response will always be one thing, an opinion. So keep that in mind going into today's video. This is just my opinion, and the comments are always open for you to share yours below. Now, with that being said, I'm going to work my way through the franchise, talking about the games in the series that are commonly referred to or considered as the worst. Which makes us roll back the clock just a couple of days back to 2009 with Borderlands 1. What's the point of wasting any time? So the arguments for Borderlands being the worst in the franchise are the color palette and the overall graphic scheme were just not the best and a little bit dull. I also hear players state that a lot of the maps look the same and there really is no distinction between different areas of the game. Even though I completely disagree, having pretty much learned these areas like the back of my ass, I'd be lying if I didn't say I understood the criticism. The story sucks. Well, yeah, let's name Borderlands games with a solid 5 out of 5 story. Borderlands 2, Tales 1. Out of all the AAA releases, that's 2 out of 7. Moving on, and just a real quick disclaimer, I am not including either of the Tales games in this discussion today as I have not finished either of them. The second one I haven't even started as I am still in the middle of the first game. But I'm already enjoying the first Tales game more than the one that I'm about to call the worst in the franchise. So just stay with me. Back to the Borderlands 1 hate, I hear a lot of people say that the guns are boring. And I can understand someone coming from the newer games or even Borderlands 2 looking at these weapons and saying, what the fuck? And where the hell did my unkempt herald go? But once you learn the mechanics and how these weapons work, you can dominate this game like no other. And it's a good time. While Borderlands 1 doesn't receive the same amount of love as the rest of the series does, I think it's criminally underrated, and even though it is a little bit dated by today's standards, I'm still gonna die on the hill that it's better than a couple of these ones we're about to talk about. To me, the guns in this game feel gritty and raw, as to where some of the later entries kinda got this mixed up, and the guns just feel a little more flashy and gimmicky. Which I'm not saying I don't like the weapons in the later titles, I just have a strong love for the raw visuals of Borderlands 1. Being able to blow domes clean off with a shotgun has never felt better. Or a masher, please bring those back for the love of God, Gearbox. And finally, the last complaint that I hear all the time about the first game is that the characters are garbage. Now, I'm not talking about the NPCs like your TK Bajas and your Dr. Zeds, Claptrap, whatever. I hear all the time that Lilith, Mordecai, Brick, and Roland all damn near play the same, and that there's really no reason to play any of these Vault Hunters because they are all garbage. And okay, if you genuinely think all the characters in Borderlands 1 play the same, you either haven't played enough of each character or you fell off before you knew what the fuck you were doing. The characters and skill trees, in my opinion, are solid enough for a game that came out damn near 15 years ago, and I think it needs to be cut just a little bit of slack because it laid the groundwork for a lot of the titles that a lot of you are gonna say are better than it. You have to remember this game laid the foundations for the franchise we know and love. Nostalgia or not, there's no way in hell it's the worst Borderlands game. Borderlands 2. Yes, I know it's not commonly referred to as the worst game, but we're about to talk about literally every other release, so I figured I'd mention it really quick. As believe it or not, I have heard some people say it's their least favorite in the franchise. And no, that's not the popular opinion. And all I've really got to say about it is, I'm sorry, but if you think this is the worst in the series, either some of the dick suckers in the community ruined it for you, or you're just blind, deaf, and potentially stupid. The PreSequel. The game that has you looting air. While I know fans are still pretty divided on this game, I don't think it's the worst, and I'd even say that it's a lot better than some of the shit we have to talk about next. But let's see what the biggest issues are with it. Well, like most Borderlands games, the story is absolutely terrible. Replace Handsome Jack with any other character and this would be about as coherent as any of the Fast and Furious movies. Because really, without Handsome Jack in any story development with him, This game's story is garbage, I'm not gonna lie. Most of the side missions and even main story quests just end up being okay at best. Not only that, but some of the story quests especially drag way too long. The pacing of this game just feels terrible. Tell me how you go from some of the best pacing in any story in any video game that I've ever played in the second release to this trash. And I'm not crapping on the game. I actually enjoy the pre-sequel. It's not my least favorite, but I'd be lying if I said I don't struggle to get through the story sometimes when I go back and play it. Because it still drags, even when you go back and play it. Even though I've experienced it multiple times before, I don't know why. The flow of the story is just terrible past the first hour or so of the game. The next complaint I often hear is that the guns are a copy and paste of Borderlands 2. And sure, it was built from the same engine and a lot of the properties are the exact same. There's still thousands of new options in this game, all at the player's disposal. I also thought that a lot of the new legendaries and uniques that they added into this one were actually really cool. But a lot of people do still shit on the guns in this game as they weren't super unique compared to a lot of the other releases. And that's really it. I couldn't think of any other major complaints that I hear all the time about the pre-sequel. If there is any, please let me know down in the comments below. I know that the DLC characters weren't exactly great, but the initial 4 Vault Hunters were super solid, having some of the best skill trees in the game, and the DLCs were pretty good as well, with one standout. If you enjoy Borderlands 2 and you haven't jumped into this one yet, it's one I'd recommend. Borderlands 3. To say I was excited for this game would be an absolute understatement. I played Borderlands 2 religiously from launch all the way up until the launch of the third game. I was a junior in high school by the time this game finally came out in 2019, and I remember the day it dropped. I had my grandma come pick me up during lunch. If you didn't know, I was raised by my grandparents, so I could rush home and download the game. And what I mean by took me home during lunch is at my school there was a program that they did at the time where your parents could actually check you out during lunch as long as they brought you back and checked you back in. And to say the least, it wasn't very often I was getting checked out for lunch. But big shout out to my grandma for getting the game for me. Thank you so much, and I love you dearly. I went home, literally made myself a sandwich. I didn't give a fuck. I had Borderlands 3 installing. So after finishing my ham sandwich, I got my happy little ass up, and my grandma took me back to school. And I remember sending Snapchats that day, just waiting, just talking about how excited I was to play the game when I got back home. So let's fast forward to when the school day ends and I get home to play the game for the first time. Cause you bet your ass that was the first thing I did was turn on that Xbox and see how it was doing. It hadn't finished downloading yet, as you know how these games are these days. They take years to download if your internet's not God tier. And the internet at my grandparents just happens to be like the shittiest internet of all time. Fast forward a couple hours later and I finally get to play the game. I had patiently waited for what I'd hope would be the greatest game ever. Unfortunately, all I got was some dog shit on my shoe, and when I took the shoes off and walked inside to clean them, I stepped on a fucking Lego, fell down the stairs and busted my head on the floor. The maps are way too big for their own damn good, and traveling to different planets was cool on paper, but the execution was far from good. It just made Pandora, the main planet of the series, feel pointless. It truly was made out to be nothing but a big turd in this game. And it was almost like anyone from any other big planet could just come and take a shit on it at any moment. The new fast travel system. I understand it was to counteract the massive maps and the overall big scale action movie shit this thing was going for. But all it really ended up accomplishing was making traversing the border of the lands completely pointless. You could just pull a crackdown and teleport wherever the hell you wanted. Oh hey, there's a travel spot right here. It's quicker to where I need to go. Let's just go there so I don't have to go across the entire map. Like I said, it sounds great on paper, but it literally made exploring the nooks and crannies of these games that we love to dive into completely irrelevant. The game also ended up just feeling like Gearbox was trying to make a Marvel universe without linking up the Avengers. Because where the hell are half of the characters? If I went on that rant, we'd be here for an additional 20 minutes. So I'm just gonna move on to my next point. The loot system. Oh man, this one pisses me off even more than the last couple. What half of the community comes back to the franchise for, the most consistent looter shooters to have come out. Yeah, until this game came out. While they did botch the hell out of the farming in the pre-sequel, it was at least fixed over time and is actually really solid now. Borderlands 3, on the other hand, tell me why before I even shoot anything, I can start the game with legendary gear. Not just one weapon either. You can get yourself 3 legendary weapons, a legendary shield, a legendary grenade. Hell, what else do you need? And yes, I know they're deluxe edition / pre-order bonuses, blah, 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 blah. But why? They had these same kind of bonuses back in the second game and they didn't give us fucking legendaries. We got whites. Which makes sense. You start with white weapons and you work your way up to getting the best guns. You don't just get handed the best loot in the game. Give us some uniques, whites, blues, anything. Anything but the best rarity that you can obtain in the game. And before you say it's just the color of the rarity and that I'm taking it too serious, tell me why within an hour of playtime you can see like 6 legendary drops if you're lucky. I might be exaggerating a little bit there, but if Borderlands 3 was making a game for babies to learn a first-person shooter, I think they nailed it out of the park. Home run, because it's a breeze to play this game, and it's by far the easiest in the franchise, and it's because the game practically holds your hand all the way through. Oh, and yeah, let's lock gear behind a timed event or a battle pass. Season pass, whatever the hell you want to call it, I don't give a damn. Then let's make legendaries exclusive to certain mayhem levels so that you can only get them in the late game. Yeah, those ideas really churned out for the hardcore audience. Notice, I went on this entire rant and not once did I mention what most people see as the biggest flaw. Something that I mentioned about every other title on the list so far, the story. Because everybody loves TikTok or Twitch partners to fight at the end of their game. No point in me even ragging on this today, as it has been already ad nauseum by a lot of the community. And if you're wondering what happened here, to make a long story short, Gearbox fails to understand what its audience wants from their games. They fail to listen to feedback. Instead, they'd rather pay content creators to say that their game is good and put them under contract to not say anything bad about it. And I'm not lying, they'd actually rather make creators sign NDAs than actually communicate with us and make it better. What can I say, man? Money makes the world go round. Dropping the ball is an understatement. They completely shit in the bed and rolled around in it. They got up and they asked us to sleep in that very same bed. Wonderlands, I'm gonna make this one quick as I've already now stated my least favorite game in the franchise. The quickest description I can give you is Borderlands 3 Lite that sucks the second game's most popular DLC's dick. Good enough story, boring, repetitive, and just flat out terrible endgame. 100 chaos levels? My god, I'm glad I quit that game early. Like actually, 100 chaos levels? Are you fucking joking? The loot aspect wasn't improved, and overall, the whole game just lacked innovation. It all just felt like, we've been here, we've done this. And those are my thoughts on the worst Borderlands game. Easily for me, it's the third, but like I said at the start, this is my opinion. And I know this is going to divide some people into a riot in the comments section below. But that's what it's there for. Whether you agree or disagree with me, please let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought of this video. And please smash a like on it and subscribe if you guys are new. And like I said, if you didn't realize, I wasn't including any of the Telltale games, as I was just wanting to talk about the main series today. And out of the 5 mainline games that I talked about today, I'd have to say Borderlands 3 easily takes the cake for me. Simply, I think it comes down to Gearbox makes games for different people now. The audience Gearbox was targeting during those first couple releases has drastically shifted here in the landscape of 2022, 2023, and beyond. And maybe it's not entirely that Borderlands 3 is a terrible game. Maybe it just wasn't made for me, and that's okay. Do you know how many hundreds of thousands of games are out there that we all would hate? It's all subjective, and sometimes it's okay to have a different opinion than somebody. Nothing will ever get me past the disappointment that was that 7 years in the making. And if Borderlands 3 is your favorite game, by chance is it because it's just the easiest and you struggle with the other games? Or do you genuinely like the game for what it is, despite the layers of flaws that it has? Or shit, maybe you're just a part of that new audience. Either way, no one's changing my opinion on this one. I couldn't even find it in myself to re-download the game for today's video. I didn't figure the time it would take to install would be worth just pissing myself off again. And that's really all I've got for you guys today. Let's hope that Borderlands 4 doesn't take the cake for our new worst game in the franchise, because this Sunday I've got some news for you coming on it. While the last 2 games haven't been my cup of tea, I hope whatever Gearbox has in store for us is something that's going to be praised by all and not shit on or forgotten. All we can do is keep hope breathing. And I'd say that's a good note to go ahead and wrap this up on. I really hope y'all did enjoy today's video. Please leave your ratings below, whether that be a like or a dislike. And all comments are much appreciated. Please let me know how much of a dumbass you think I am or how much you agree with me. Either way, I love you all to death, and I hope you did enjoy your stay. Please have a good rest of your weekend. We're going to be throwing up another video on Sunday, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But with that, I've got nothing more to say, and I will see you all in the next one.